Hey, this is your Kenyan friend again. Before we start this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the post notification bell so then you get notification on every single new video that our family makes. And also make sure to share to everybody that you know that will love our channel. Bye!
Hi everyone! Welcome back to the Robinson and Inyangu family. And
we have hidden away in our son's bedroom.
yeah, you guys don't know where we are.
For a little bit. They are downstairs. We are hiding from them so that we could, I guess, have a discussion.
Story time.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the process here of moving to the United States, Aggie becoming a U.S. citizen, what it was like when she was here, coming for the first time, her expectations, me in Kenya, what it was like getting married in Kenya, what it was like living in Kenya, being a Mzungu in Kenya.
Yeah, you guys don't know what you guys know what Mzungu is? So Mzungu is someone who is not black or Asian or Spanish. So basically Mzungu is white. So
I'm a Mzungu.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to finish the whole story today. It's a long story. So wherever we'll cover as much as we can. If we don't finish it, we'll have another story time. Mm-hmm. So
I think I did one interview which we have on our channel with a friend of mine, Depesh, who I met when I was in Nepal, and we were talking with regards to me being in Kenya, getting married, and then a friend of mine that I met in college, Doug, he has a YouTube channel and a podcast, Front Porch with Doug, on Doug's Front Porch. And we were talking on his that interview will be released, I think, this upcoming
on
week.
The 15th or something.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the
on our
channel for the information on that. And he was asking me, so Aggie and I were talking about it. We have some friends as well that, that'll ask us the questions about what it was like to get married in Kenya, what it was like, for Aggie coming to the United States, and for me being in Kenya.
Yeah, so actually the marriage part, there's some difference. So in Kenya, the man or the groom's family takes care of the wedding. That means they pay for the wedding, they buy, literally they take care of the whole wedding. But I guess here
in the United States, traditionally I think it's the bride's family that takes care of everything. But I think nowadays, I think mostly they split or they come up with it. I think a lot of it's they figure out ways to finance it. Our wedding was not. We didn't spend a lot of money. I think total was maybe $3,000.
Yeah, so what happens is, I know there's a lot of, in Kenya we have a lot of different types of marriages. So each tribe so in Kenya we have around, is it 48 or 54 tribes?
I believe 54.
So we have 54 tribes. Like my tribe is Luya, and in Luya we have sub-tribes. So in my tribe, what they do, they have like a traditional marriage, if you want to go through that. So that's one of the wedding, traditional marriage where we did that, but we didn't go to up country where it's like the western part. So we just did in Nairobi, where we had like church leaders come and we discussed like the way forward and all that.
The western part of Kenya, out by the Ugandan borders, where Aggie's tribe's from.
Yes, so the traditional marriage, that's just like, it's not the church marriage, just like you can go to your village or where you're initially from, and then just knowing each other, knowing both families and all that. And then we have the church wedding where you wear your gown and all that. It's the same like here. And then we also have the court wedding for those people who don't like big ceremonies, or for those people who don't want to spend too much money on the wedding. Like for us, we did the court wedding because we had a lot of expenses ahead of us because of immigration. So the court wedding is just like you go to the court and you have your witnesses. You can bring your priest or pastor, and then they just foresee the process. And then after that, you go to the reception.
Right, and that's and the courthouse. It would be a typical courthouse like in the United States. I think, what was it called? They call it a house, right?
Nyayo House.
Nyayo House. So that's where we got
Yeah.
married in Nairobi. Here you just go to either your local courthouse or justice of the peace, wherever they happen to be housed.
Yeah, so there we only have like one house where
in Nairobi.
Yeah.
But
so,
I'm sure each county has a different one. I'm sure there's one out.
Yeah,
in,
I think so.
in
Yeah,
Western.
each county. Mm-hmm.
But here in the States, you can get married at the courthouse. You'd have, I believe, a witness for each. For us, we had our witnesses plus some family were in there. Aggy's pastor and family. My family was not in Kenya. Understandably, it's quite a distance.
Yeah.
So I was able to speak with after our wedding when we got back for our reception. We called our mom and dad back here in the States. Spoke to them for a few minutes. My one brother, he sent me a text, or he sent us a text the night before. Then a good friend of mine sent a text as well the night before. But we did basically, like you said, we got married. So Aggy was wearing, what we'd have here, Western style clothing, a white dress, and I was wearing a not a tuxedo, but I was dressed in formal wear.
Smart.
Yeah, I don't like to wear ties, so I didn't wear a tie.
Oh god, yeah, he took like not even a tie. Like he had the shirt buttoned up, but let me tell you guys, it wasn't even the end of the reception. All the buttons were
Yes,
and,
it was...
and buttons. He was ready to like even take off the shirt if he could, but he had to at least stay put.
And
but it was
we,
a fun wedding.
Yeah, we rented, I believe, 1 or 2 cars, and then one of the people that I worked with, the lady that I actually worked for, she let us use her vehicle, and she actually let us use her garden. So in the back of her, in the back of her
backyard.
Yeah,
you guys would call it backyard here. Yeah.
There it's called a garden. So at her compound, her house, she let us use the backyard, which was fantastic. So we had everybody come back, and I think we had about 30 guests total.
Yeah, around 30 to 40. Yeah, because we had like church members. Part of my family, most of them didn't make it because it was like a quick decision, so we didn't want to like inconvenience anyone. And then like my grandmother, she lives with my cousins who are orphans back home, so she couldn't leave them at the time, but it's understandable. So some of my aunts made it, which was really nice. So yeah, it was nice.
It was a nice wedding. It lasted all day, which was fantastic. We had a nice big wedding cake.
Yeah, that was huge.
I'll see if I can put some pictures. And then for our wedding photos, I have prior to going to Kenya, I was in Nepal for several months. And actually, if you look back a little bit on our videos, you can see the one. And in there, prior to going, I used to do a lot of photography, so I purchased a Nikon camera. And it's not a paid sponsorship from them by any means, but it was a Nikon D800. And I really liked the camera. She was a great camera. Very, very resilient for the amount of abuse that I put through. So Aggy's sister took a bunch of photos of us. So not that we saved a little bit of money with the wedding photographer.
Professional photos.
But we have a professional.
I think anyone can be a professional.
Yeah. And the camera work was fantastic. And then we had, as far as the cooks and the caterers and things like that.
We had my family.
Had the family. So
they were our cooks.
Yeah. So they came. So we paused the video for a second. The kids are still downstairs.
Yeah, we're still hiding.
And the door is closed, but they might run back up again.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we were saying, like bringing the food back, we had Aggy's family was able to help out greatly with cooking the food. The wedding lasted just about all day. I think we went back in the evening. We where we were living in Kenya, we lived basically in they're called bed sitters. So it's actually it would be like a 1-room flat, a 1-room apartment. We had a bathroom, small little kitchen area. And Aggy's mom's apartment was below us. So it was Aggy, Cheryl, and myself. We just went back home that night. Cheryl was throwing a temper tantrum all evening and into the night. It was around 2 a.m. when we finally figured out what was wrong with her.
Yeah.
So Cheryl doesn't like chocolate, even now at her age. She still does not eat anything chocolate related. She's not allergic to it, and she doesn't like the taste of it. So she was crying all night. And then around 2 a.m, we finally figured out what she wanted. She goes, "I want chocolate." And apparently she saw chocolate where we were, and she just remembered it in the evening and was just crying for it.
Yeah,
all night.
So I guess that day she decided to love chocolate. But it was interesting. I don't blame her. I mean, everything was just so new to her. Everything seemed like so abrupt.
Mhm.
But I mean, yeah, that was.
And then same as here in the U.S., people give wedding presents in Kenya. So when we were there, Aggie's family got us a nice microwave. One of her cousins gave us some cups, which unfortunately we broke. Not all of them, but we broke some of them. And I think one of my friends from back in the States, they sent us some money on PayPal. But same as the States. So we got a few gifts from there, and it was a really fun wedding. As far as weddings go, it was nice.
Yeah.
It lasted all day long, and then we were married. And like Aggie was saying, we had a smaller wedding than I think we would have had if we were staying in Kenya. But we had to put a lot of money aside for the immigration process, not just the paperwork and the legal forms, but also for the flight over to the United States, and then
for starting a life here.
So putting money aside for when we landed an apartment. When we first moved here, we moved into Philadelphia. So we moved around from, I think when we landed, we stayed with my parents for a little bit, and then up to one of my friend's houses, and then up to my brother's house, and then down to finally an apartment. And I think that whole process was about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I think we landed, and I think 2 days later I started work. 2 or 3 days later I started work. I'm a teacher, so I started teaching about 2 or 3 days later. So everything was really, really fast.
Yeah, it was.
And Aggie was, like she was saying before, she didn't know anybody here. Cheryl still spoke only Swahili. So it was just Aggie and Cheryl at home most of the time. So she would, luckily there's good communication between Kenya and the United States. I mean, email, those sort of things. But WhatsApp is huge around the world, but also for communication back and forth.
Yeah, that was really, so she spoke Swahili. Right now she only knows a little bit, because we were like, most basically I was scared that if she goes to school here, she won't be able to communicate. But eventually she learned really quickly. It was nice moving fast to Philly, because I thought it was a nice city.
Where we lived in the center city area.
Yeah.
So everything, we had a small grocery store, corner store, like a grocery store, just a small little corner store though. Right across the street from us, we lived on the third floor of an apartment building, a 4-story apartment building, an old 1920s building. The steps were always fun when we were getting our groceries. But there's a grocery store right across the street, so I could get things. There was a YMCA down the road a few blocks. There was a couple parks right in the area, and everything was in walking distance. And we had some good friends. A gentleman I grew up with, Jason, and his wife Melissa. They lived maybe 10 blocks down the road.
Yeah.
Just right down the street, the same street. Yeah, just right down the street, maybe 10, 11 blocks. And they had a daughter a couple years younger than Cheryl, but
they got along.
Yeah, and she was a huge help for Aggie, first friend in the United States.
Yeah,
first person she knew in the United States other than me, for the most part.
Exactly, like at least someone who is not family. She's more family. She's really nice. She helped me a lot with like adapting to the area, knowing the places, and that was really nice. It was nice coming to a place where at least you know someone.
Mm-hmm. And we had a small little apartment. It was one room, little kitchen. We had our bed. Cheryl's bed was on the floor. I was gonna get her a little dog bed. Remember that?
Exactly.
It wasn't a little dog bed. It was the bed that we were gonna get was a small one for her.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a dog bed. I was gonna get my daughter a dog bed, but she was right next to us. We were there for about a year.
Yeah, I think so.
Just about a year. And then we moved south to Delaware.
Yeah.
And we've been here ever since. But the adjustment for now, Kenya is a dual language country, so Swahili and English are both the languages that are spoken. Aggie also speaks Luya, which is her tribal language. And I think you know a little bit of Kikuyu.
A little bit like Luo. Very little. I wouldn't like communicate with someone fluently. But like living in a place where like couple tribe people, it's like we were mixed. All tribes were mixed in the same area.
So in Nairobi, a lot of the tribes It's the main city, so when people live there. So our neighbors were Kikuyu, Lul. I don't think there was any Sisi or Kisi.
Kisi, I think there were, yeah, and Kikuyu.
Mm-hmm. So those are all around. So you'll hear different, languages spoken. For me, adjusting, everything was in Swahili. So where we lived in the bedsitter, we would come home at night. I'd come home at night. Aggie would come home at night, and the stove was down at Aggie's mom's place, so we'd go down there and cook. And what Aggie was saying before was everybody's around, so family would come by, friends would always stop by. There's always kids to play with, and we'd eat. They would eat late. I would usually have something prior to that today. I think it was like around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock when everybody would actually sit down to start eating. And that's mainly because
around like 8 o'clock.
Everybody's coming home from doing different things and working or working out, playing football or doing different things. They'd eat, and everything was in Swahili. Occasionally somebody would look over at me and roughly translate what was happening to me in English for a few seconds, and then it would just go back to talking. So I was forced to learn a lot of Swahili.
I'm glad when I came here they just speak English, which I do understand. So I bet it wasn't easy for Nick being like the only person who doesn't understand Swahili there. Everyone is conversing and laughing, and he's like, huh?
I read a lot. Charlie and I hung out, and I would read a lot during those times, which was fun. But even all the communication on TV, it was always in Swahili, so I couldn't even watch news. I couldn't even watch news. I couldn't watch it. Although they did have a lot of Mexican soap operas, which were translated in English. So I got to hear a lot of Mexican soap operas in English. That would be the main thing that was on TV that I would watch. Luckily, everybody else liked watching them too, so it worked out.
Oh yeah, we do actually. We do like watching them. So it's
a lot of Mexicans. And I think they were dated ones too. They weren't like old, but they were definitely about 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah, around there. Yeah, it's fun. So
Kenya's got their own shows and things like that. Here in the United States, we'll have translated shows as well. So it wasn't as if they didn't have their own independent television networks. It was just that was something that I knew that would be in English, so I could watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't probably easy for you either being there and.
So where we lived, so when I first moved to Kenya, I was staying with the people that hired me, and it would be in a well-off area around the embassy area of Nairobi. So a lot of diplomats, a lot of upper-end housing. Here they would just be, you consider your mansions, your closed gated communities and those sort of things. Mm-hmm. Aggie's aunt was one of the ladies that worked there. She was the cook and I guess the house help. Yeah. And I went back with her one day just to see where she was living, just outside near Kangemi, which is one of the local, I guess, sub-towns in Nairobi. Mm-hmm. Nairobi is a huge city. I don't think it'd be like a mega city, but it's the largest city in Kenya. Yeah. And it's got other subdivisions, and we lived in near the Westland side of it. So I went back there to the area just outside of Kangemi. She was picking up her son, and Aggie was watching her son. Yeah. And Aggie's daughter, so Cheryl, was up in Western at that time with your aunt. So I didn't meet Cheryl for maybe 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. We went up to get her there when we went to go. Wasn't for Christmas. It might have been
I think Christmas.
Yeah, right around then. If not, we went up there a little before Christmas. That was it. And so that's how I met. We can get into how I met Aggie a little bit later too. But where we lived, I was teaching. So I would teach during the morning and then tutor in the afternoons. And I would tutor all over Nairobi. So I would walk everywhere. But I figured out that I could walk to where the matatus were and take a matatu to Westlands, and then pick up another matatu there and take it to close to the school that I worked at, and then jump off the matatu there and walk the last mile or so. Yeah. Walk the last mile. So it was about a mile to get to the first bus, and then I would take that bus in. But in order to get them, so there was two different prices. So I think it was around 10 shillings, around 10 cents, 10 to 15 cents. If I got there at 5:30 in the morning, and I didn't have to get to work until like 7:45 or so, but I would get there. But if I left and I got there around 5 o'clock, I was only 5 shillings. So I would get up around 4:30 and hoof it to the buses to get the less expensive rate.
Yeah.
And we're only talking 5 cents here. 5 cents and about 10 to 15 cents. And I would jump on that one and then take another bus up. But then I could also take a shower at work as well in the morning. So I'd get there early and it would just be myself and a bunch of the other grounds crew taking, like, they had showers there in their athletic facility. So sometimes I would go and work out. I would work there with them. So sometimes they'd be working out too. So we would do that. And then in the afternoon, I'd walk all over Nairobi. I would log a lot of miles during the day. I was a lot thinner then.
Yeah, because you were like more active. You walked a lot.
Yeah.
But I think also most people don't use also what is it called, private transportation.
No,
People use mostly
boda-bodas,
public transportation.
A boda-boda would be it's a motorcycle taxi. So they're, depending on where you're going, sometimes I would jump on them. They're 50 cents to $2 or $3 depending on how far you're going. And you would just hop on the back of a small little motorcycle, about between 150 and 200 cc's, maybe 250 at the largest cc motorcycle, and they would just take you around Nairobi. Or there's also matatus, which are small little buses. They're like Vanagon buses, and they are between, like I said, 5 shillings, and during rush hours the prices increase. But I think the most you'd ever really pay would be like $1 or $2 for local transport, like 100 to 200 shillings, and that would be pushing it for about 200 shillings, depending on where you wanted to go. In the Nairobi area. Like if you wanted to go out to Western, it'd be about $10 to $15, just because it's a further distance. That would be about an 8-hour bus ride, 6 to 8 hour bus ride.
Yeah, and people just prefer public transportation because it's like it saves time and all that. It's just like here with New York City. Like most people, I've been to New York City and I see most people use the electric, what are they called, scooters or
the subways.
Around. Yeah, because you don't want to be stuck with the traffic. Just the same as Nairobi. Nairobi, there's a lot of traffic. So to avoid that, even if some people own cars, but they just don't use it unless they're going to like a farther distance where it's more comfortable if you have your own car.
Or you can take an Uber. I don't know if Lyft is there, but Uber is very prevalent. You can take an Uber. And this is going back 2016, 2017. I think Uber was very popular there around then. For those ones you can, a lot of people don't have, there are banks there. There's a lot of banks there, it seems there. But what they had there, and I think it finally caught on to here, but it was in Kenya even prior to that, would be M-Pesa. Pesa is money, M is for mobile, so it's mobile money, and it's linked through your phone. So not your physical phone, but through your data number. So even if your phone gets stolen, you still have your own private SIM card, your own private line, and that's where the money is located. So you can send people digital currency, digital money, not like Bitcoin and things like that. It's physical money, but it'd be like a wire transfer.
Right.
But it's direct mobile to mobile payments. Or when you go into a store, they'll have an M-Pesa number so you can wire it to their account, which was phenomenal. And it really helped out Kenya in eluding the banking system. It's not nefarious or anything like that. They'll still have service charges and things, but that helps out a lot. So you can move money around that way. And even for ride sharing and for, I did not have an M-Pesa account because the phone that I had was an amazing device. So think of an old Nokia brick. Now, erase all the indestructibility of a Nokia brick, but just keep in mind that tiny little device.
No, it wasn't really that tiny. It was like, you guys still
It was a beautiful phone.
You guys still have those phones here in the U.S. Like you have like.
It was like a burner phone, but it wasn't a burner phone. So it was I just like the old Nokias because they were so indestructible. So I wanted to bring that up and describe it that way and just say that it was nothing like that. It was a little plastic wonder. When I went to go get a phone, I wanted to, it would be like going to a phone store here. There was Safaricom and what's the other?
They have Airtel.
Airtel. There's Safaricom and Airtel. I forget which one. I think I had Airtel.
Yeah, so with Safaricom, you can get the M-Pesa in it. Airtel doesn't have.
Airtel
has Airtel Money, but most people prefer using M-Pesa because M-Pesa is like, I don't know which bank I'll compare, like a Wells Fargo, where they're everywhere. So M-Pesa is like everywhere, but Airtel Money, they don't have a lot of, a lot of ATM places. where you can go and withdraw the money.
Yeah.
But M-Pesa was like everywhere. Like everyone had
It's like
M-Pesa.
Facebook and MySpace. People know
Yeah.
what MySpace is, but nobody really uses it. Everybody uses Facebook.
Exactly.
And M-Pesa everybody uses, and Airtel they don't. But Airtel had the less expensive rates if I were to call the United States.
International, yeah.
So, or sending text messages back to the United States. Because with my phone, I couldn't get WhatsApp on it. I could send basic text messages, but I couldn't do much else. When I went to go buy the phone, the people that were selling it to me, it would just be going to like any store here in the United States, T-Mobile, Verizon, you go in there. They were beyond surprised that I was buying that phone. They couldn't understand why I was getting that phone.
Yeah, but I kind of understood them. So before he tells you guys why people are surprised. So mostly in Kenya, people who come from abroad are mostly not Black Americans, mostly white. When they come there, they're the ones who hire. Most of them are the ones who are like hiring the Kenyans.
They would be well-off Europeans, well-off
exactly.
Canadians, Australians, people from the United
Or
States,
like,
well-off Indians.
Yeah,
and those
people
sort of
working
things. So
for the embassy.
So people that have money that are coming there. One, it takes money to get there.
Yeah, but we're not also used to seeing just like a random white person walking around in Kenya. So it was more so like they were expecting him to get a better phone, like an iPhone, like a smartphone.
The entire time I was there,
So
I
why
only
is this
saw
like...
two other people that were, I think one was German, and the other one was, I don't even know, it might have been, it wasn't from the United States, but I'm sure they spoke English.
Yeah.
If they were from here, they definitely spoke English, but they weren't speaking English to me. On a matatu. Other than that, and then when we lived where we lived in Waruku, Kangemi, I was the only Mzungu, the only white person there by any stretch of the imagination. It just wasn't something that happened.
I mean, white people will come around, but most of them will be like, because most people who walk around like the local or the small towns or cities, they're mostly like missionaries who come from the US or the UK. And they visit there.
And if they do go to like where we lived, and this is not me bragging by any means. It was one thing. I lived there. I had a family there. They would come in with like an entourage. You wouldn't really see a random white person walking around by themselves at all.
Yeah,
and stopping by, like for me, like when I would go over to Gashia, which was another little, I guess, town area near where I lived prior to moving in with Aggie. They're like stopping in at stores or stopping in a restaurant, a small little corner store restaurant, and getting something to eat. It just didn't happen. Even getting my hair cut, but it wasn't like people were just like like, oh my goodness, we've got a white person in here. They've got money. Let's charge them more for everything and things like that. Like it was more so they're business people.
I mean, it's like they will have
okay,
like
I've got a good to sell and you want to buy it. Here you go.
I mean, yeah, they will have like an expectation, like, oh, I hope he gives us a little bit more than our local Kenyans. It's like having, I don't even know what to compare with. It's like here, probably I don't know how they do it, but sometimes people will be like, yeah, oh, our president has visited our restaurant. He's gonna give us a big tip compared to me visiting the same restaurant. Yeah. So it's.
And coming from the United States, growing up with how the system works here within tipping and how understanding, I've worked within the service industry for a number of years, understanding how people depend upon tips for their living and things like that. Whenever we'd go out, tipping isn't something that's built into the system in Kenya. But for me, like when I get my haircut, I would always leave a tip, but I would give them whatever the money was. If it was, let's say it was a $2 haircut, I'd give them $5, or it was $5 haircut, I'd give them the $10. And I'd just be like, no, I don't need change. That's it. Like the first couple times, they were just surprised that was happening.
Yeah.
And then finally they caught on. Like I was like, no, it's a tip. Well, from the United States, this is what we do, and I understand that you don't do that here, but it's not it's not meaning to be an insult or anything like that.
I mean, they do something like that. It's just not called like a tip or something. Like once in a while, but it's not like common. So for example, if you go somewhere and someone makes your hair, like in a hair beauty salon, you would just appreciate them with like, oh, here you go, drink some tea. But it wouldn't be like a tip. I mean, we would call it like that because it's not really like it won't be like on a receipt they're saying
Yeah.
tip. No, it will just be like, here you
Wouldn't
go.
be expected.
Get yourself
I
some
do miss the
tea.
Kenyan tea. Whenever, like, at any hour of the day, whether it be 2 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, always you can always expect a Kenyan tea.
Yeah, we drink a lot of tea, and that's why in Kenya most of us like my grandmother has her own cows. Everyone who moves, if you move away from Nairobi, you have to have a cow. Like it's like when my mom, when she retires, we'll have to get her at least 2 cows, one that she can milk, and we'll milk them our own. We don't like hire. I mean, if you're too old to do it, you can get like a younger person to do it for you. But normally, my grandmother still milks her cow, and then we just boil the milk and we use it. So and the milk on the tea, they all taste different here. Like it's nothing close to what we taste in Kenya. No. It's still good, but it's different. I think it's because we drink like direct from the cow. Not really direct. We still boil it.
But they are the ones. So they would have not dehydrated. Well, they do have dehydrated milk. We have that here in the States too. But it would be not everybody has refrigeration there. There are people have refrigerators. I'm not
most people just don't prefer. I mean, we just used to. So for us to think about it this way, we don't need a fridge because, for example, like where we used to live, there were corner markets like literally 10 steps from your door.
Yeah. So when you're coming home, like when I would come home from work,
you just buy.
I would have $1 or $2, and I would be getting maybe 2 mangoes, some greens, maybe some cabbage, something like that. You know, some onions, something like that. On the way as I'm walking down from different vendors, then the next day I get it from a different vendor on the same route, and then when we get home, so you're having the fresh food every single evening. And then during the day you would either have ugali, and that's something that you can just we have a video on ugali, so you see what that is. And you just pack up a little bit of it, in a little, whatever you're putting it in, a little glass jar, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's what you would have for lunch. Maybe some lentils with it, and then for breakfast you'd typically have tea. I would have coffee, maybe something else, an egg or something like that, but nothing. There was really no need for refrigeration.
Right. And also like some people are just like, some people in Kenya, like my brother actually, he's one of them. He has a fridge in his house, but he says he doesn't eat food from the fridge. For whatever reason, I don't know, because he says his food has to be prepared every day, because they just have a belief like food shouldn't be like the fridge should be mostly for dairy.
Oh yeah, I think it's probably a much healthier way to be.
Yeah,
preservatives,
be like for milk, but not cooking like
a lot less preservatives and
food,
things like that.
Yeah.
In the food, I mean, they do have food. They have the same stuff that we have here, so you can go out and get processed food. You can get your processed meat. Yeah. They do a bologna there, so you can get those things.
Or pizza.
Yeah, but you could also go directly to like across the street from where we were. There was the butcher, so you could go there. They have the meat right there, and they will cut it for you right there.
Hanging there.
Yeah, and you can get it that way as well. They had refrigeration.
And for the chicken, we just we do the whole process. You just get a live chicken and do the whole. Nick did it too.
Yeah, so you can you would get the chicken, and you would I guess
trying to look for.
I don't know what the word is.
You just prepare.
Prepare it. That's a good way to say it. So, I will say the medical system in Kenya. So while I was there, as I tell Aggie, and it was confirmed by the physician and the chemist, I had the worst case of malaria that Kenya has ever seen. Aggie doesn't always agree with me. So I had it for a good bit of time before I realized, and finally one morning, actually we were sleeping in it was after we were married. No, it was before we were married. It was when we came back from Western. So I got it when we were out in Western Kenya. One of the people I worked for or tutored their child, they were a physician, and they were telling me that the mosquitoes in Nairobi typically don't carry malaria. That doesn't mean that they don't. He wasn't directly saying that there are no mosquitoes here, and if you come to Nairobi, you're not going to get malaria. But he said typically they don't. And for the most part, people don't get malaria. You can take medication prior to it. I just happened to get it, and it does happen. And I didn't have the worst case of malaria, but I wasn't feeling well for several days.
Stop saying that. You did not have the worst case of malaria.
See what I mean? She doesn't agree with me. So I wasn't feeling well for a couple days, and then we were staying at her brother's place, and I woke up one morning just covered in sweat.
Yeah.
And I was like, Aggie, I don't think I'm gonna be able to work today. And Aggie's like, you better go to work today.
I never say that.
She kind of pushed me out of bed. I was taking up too much
Oh
space
my
and I was
God.
sweating too much, and she just didn't want me there. She wanted me to go to work. No, she said I most likely had malaria. So we went to a chemist, or not. We went to a doctor. So they had a little it would be like what we have here, like a rapid care place. But it was like it wasn't the hospital. It was just like a doctor's office, but it was like a local one. I forget how you even call it.
No, it's just different. So you see, like here, you guys don't have that. So you have like either you go to the hospital or Medicare. Or not Medicare, oh my gosh, MedExpress.
Yeah, so the rapid care place. Or if you want to go to your physician, you'd have to make an appointment. Usually they don't there same day. So if you have something like malaria, they're like, I'll see you in 3 weeks. You can go to the hospital if it's an emergency, or you can stop by a MedExpress, but they treat not everything. So when we went there, we were sitting there, and the gentleman, he was telling us, okay, it's most likely malaria and pneumonia, and he knew it was one of the two, and we knew it was one of the two. So it was either pneumonia or malaria, and they could have done a test for both of them, but he wanted to test us. But if we knew what it was, he just gave us the medicine for it. And I will say this is one of the few times that people were trying to estimate how much to charge, and he said, I think for the malaria medicine it was like $3. What was it?
No, it was like maybe 15.
No, because I only had like 1,000 shillings on me. Or no, I only had about $15 on me, and he gave me the medicine. Basically, so it was $15 for both, for the malaria medicine and the pneumonia medicine. And after we left, as we were leaving, Aggie, she was like, Nick, like, because as soon as he said the price, I was like, perfect, and I gave him the money, and Aggie was sitting there like, what? And as we're leaving, she's like, Nick, he charged you so much more than what you should have charged for that. And I was like, Aggie, wait until you get to the United States and you find out how much medical care actually is. And then I think a day or two later, I got tested, and it was malaria. But the next day, I felt like I took that day off from work, slept, drank a lot of fluids. Like Pedialyte, we went out and got some, electrolyte. They don't have Gatorade. Well, actually, you might have Gatorade there, but it's a different brand. So whoever Unilever, whoever makes it, just has a different model, a different brand over there. But it's the same stuff. And I felt much better that next day. I went back to work, and I thought that was hilarious. That I thought I was getting a huge deal. That I'm like, what? All this medicine for only $15? But you could also just go to what they would call a chemist, which would be a pharmacy here. So that one place that we went to, it was across the street, but it was like across the street and up. It was maybe like a 2-minute walk, but directly across the street from us was a chemist, which would be I think in England they call them chemists, but it would be a pharmacist, and they can prescribe you the medicine there. So if you went in there and you needed an antibiotic, they're not just going to give you, medicine, just, they're, drugs and stuff like that. They're not going to give you opioids by any means. Not that I went to go, I don't think you would really get them. I mean, they might give you Tylenol.
Yeah.
Those sort of things. But if you had something, they could prescribe it there, which is a lot easier, because then you'd have to go to a doctor. They would make a prescription, then you take it to the pharmacist. There, they could treat you direct. Yeah, they could treat you right there.
But also the people who own the chemist,
they're doctors.
They're doctors.
Yeah.
So they just some of them have been working in the hospital. Yeah. But they just since maybe they only have 2 shifts and they need more money, they decide to open their own chemist. Mm-hmm. So they're like, they can even administer shots. Yeah. They can do blood work. But most of the blood work, some of the blood work, they might not do it there. Like malaria, normally we have, malaria is like,
yeah, it's simple.
And they just have like, what is it called? I think, I don't know how to call it. They prick your finger and then they put the blood on
like a test strip.
Test strip up, and then
they can do that. They can do I don't know. Do they do family planning there?
Yeah.
And some of them, they do family planning.
Yeah.
So they do a lot, but it was so much more convenient and so much easier for me as coming in from somebody from the United States, and how our medical system works here, to be able to go there. It was phenomenal. I was like, this is so much more convenient.
It is, because it's just like having to you just have like a small issue, but you have to go through the calling the offices,
Yeah.
scheduling appointments, and sometimes you can't get through for like 30 to 40 minutes.
And it was like even the time that I had to go see a doctor for something else, an actual, going to see the physician, and just called them up, and they said, basically it was setting up an appointment how you would here, and I did that, and Aggie went with me, and I think it was for the doctor, everything was like $10 for everything, for the appointment, for the consultation and everything like that, and it wasn't like we'll meet you and then you can come back the next day for the actual because you're a new patient or anything like that. It was just like, okay, come in, sit down, I'll treat you here, and even there it was just different. And you can also, which was nice, so they call it was it Bufrin, like an ibuprofen type. But there you can get it instead of getting like a full bottle of 50 to 60, you can buy them individually. So usually you go in there and get a couple,
maybe like a week prescription.
Yeah.
Because normally you don't really need much ibuprofen because of course the pain is, if you're only having a headache, if you take ibuprofen, you just need like 3 days and all that.
And usually they're just they're a shilling, so usually they're like a penny a pill. So
yeah, but let it not sound, for my fellow American friends and family, it might sound like it's like less money, $10, but that's a lot of money in Kenya. Like
we can talk about that if you want to. So our apartment that we lived in was 90.
Yeah.
It was $90 for our bed sitter, which is for me that was astronomically inexpensive. We had our own bathroom, so it had a toilet, and you would boil water for a shower, but we had a shower as well. I don't think we had and you can get a hot water.
So it's basically like a studio. Like you can easily get whatever you want, but you just choose what you think
what you need.
It's a need, So
but that $90, I think the average salary is right around $300.
Yeah.
Give or take for most Kenyans. There's Kenyans that are astronomically wealthy, and there's other Kenyans that make less than that, but around $300. But you'd have to factor in, if that's your rent, then you'd have the electric on top of it, and for the most part, school fees, I think, and
plus food and transport.
The
transport that you're using to go to work, because most of the time the jobs are usually farther, so you have to like
gauge it, and you have to get up earlier because of the traffic. That was another reason I would get up so early in the morning, because if I had waited till about 5:30, 6 o'clock to leave, I wouldn't have been able to go the route that I would. I would have to go a different route, because that road to Waiheke Way would have been completely backed up. So it wasn't just I was trying to save money. It was more so just logistics. And $300, it doesn't sound like a lot from the United States perspective, to stretch it out through the month, but you do definitely have to stretch it.
Oh yeah, and that's just like the middle class. But mostly some people even earn as low as $100 a month. But so it's we will talk about like living.
If you've got any questions, please.
Like living in Kenya as I would call myself, I wouldn't call myself poor because I didn't sleep hungry and I had decent clothes on. My daughter went to school, so we'll talk about that in a different video.
We can talk about that. Because when I met Aggie, she was a single mother living in Nairobi, and I was I wasn't married and I didn't have any children at that time. So Aggie, if you want to hear about what it was like to grow up as a single, or not grow up, to live as a single mother for a few years in Nairobi, just working and generally living, that's probably much more interesting than.
We'll talk about that in a different video. We don't want to make this like too long for you guys, but it was
or ramblingness. If I'm rambling, she's not. She's on track.
It was everything was fun. Did you have fun back in Kenya?
I miss it a lot. When we came to the United States, I had booked a flight to come back to the United States to visit, to pick up some stuff, because our plan was to stay in Kenya. So I had booked a flight back to the United States after we got married, maybe a month or two after we got married. Came back for maybe 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, right at the end of the term there back in Kenya. And maybe about 2 weeks after I booked the flight, that's when we figured out that Aggie wouldn't be able to come with me. Not wouldn't be able to come with me, but wouldn't be able to.
No, I wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, she wouldn't have been able to come with me, but I booked a flight for myself. just to come back because I want to bring some more teaching material and more stuff to move there permanently. And then we were going to come back to the United States after we got all the. We were planning on coming back. I think it was the next summer.
Yeah.
Or the next term with Cheryl because we didn't have their passports and things like that, so we needed to get that stuff. But that's when we found out. And I think that's when we found out when we were starting to get your passport and to apply for a tourist visa. That the only visa she could get would be the citizen or the I guess the U.S. green card visa, and then we had to move to the United States. But technically we didn't have to move to the United States. Aggie and Cheryl would have had to move to the United States and for a 2-year period spend the better part of a year. So for 2 years, it would have been 6 months and a day. Her and Cheryl would have to stay in the United States. Then they can come back to Kenya for the remainder of the 6 months, and then go back to the United States.
Which one? As a tourist?
No, you weren't eligible for the tourist visa.
I thought as the other one I had to stay 2 years here without moving.
No, you can come back after 6 months and a day. You had to take the better part of a year.
Gotcha. Oh, a better part. Okay, that makes sense.
But she wasn't eligible for the tourist visa, so we didn't realize that. So I came back to the United States, and picked up some stuff, came back to Kenya, and that's when we finalized a lot of the visa stuff to apply for the visa to come here. So that was rushed. Not that we didn't plan on coming to this, but I had to quit my job in Kenya. I liked my job there. I had to quit that and then basically start anew here. So it was all very rushed to us. That first year being back in the United States was crazy. It was a lot of fun, but it was definitely a challenging adventure.
Yeah, I mean it was
but
challenging.
I definitely I missed Kenya. I miss it now. They went back last December, so not this past December of 2020. No, 2020 into 2021. That December into January. Cheryl, Chesley, and Aggie went back because the family there can't come here. So Chesley is going to be 4 in August, and our family back in Kenya, so Aggie's parents, brothers and sisters, they've only seen Chesley for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
For about 2 weeks at that time. And then Cheryl, they saw for those 2 weeks, but they haven't seen her for 5 years.
Yeah, because when we came here, we stayed here for almost 3 years without going, because we were supposed to go, and then the green cards we had were so we only had a 2-year green card, and we couldn't, so it has to be extended, and we were at that duration where we only had a few days on it. So we were not scared, we were worried it will interfere with the process. Right. And they will have some question mark on the document.
And internationally, you're not supposed to, you can still travel, but they don't want you to travel when you're running out of time on the end of your visas.
So we had just applied for the extension of the paperwork, and it was still in the process, so that
and then COVID happened.
Yeah, exactly. So we had to stay almost 3 years without going back.
But Kenyan Airways, they really worked with us. Because we had booked the flights and then COVID happened, so everything went on lockdown. But they really worked with us on changing, because we were going to go back. They were going to go back for the summer. I was going to stay here and work. So we had to shorten a 2-month trip to 3 weeks. But then. But we'll be able to go back. So Aggie, in a sense, hasn't really seen family for 5 years. And that's definitely difficult.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? We are helping out family. Working here, we have opportunities on both sides. So there's more opportunities here, job-wise, and also different opportunities back in Kenya. So it's
let us know any questions you have, please. The immigration process, what it's like being cross-culturally married, or also just what life was back there.
Anyone of you thinking of going back to Kenya, reach out to us. We'll give you some
and these are based on, in a sense, Aggie's experiences and my experiences. I'm trying not to put gross generalizations on what Kenya's like. It's just my experience there. It was wonderful. But also, those are just my experiences. Other people might have different experiences. And moving to the United States, we can talk about that in another video. Let us know if you like these type of videos.
Hi guys, it's been amazing talking to you all. I hope you enjoy our videos. We'll have more story time. Please remember to check our other videos, our old videos. We have it on our channel, which is the Robinson and Inyangu family. And if you're new here, karibu sana.